So we have Bob Russell here. He's the manager of fixed income and real estate at Barita Investments Limited. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Today, the guys have spoken a lot about fixed income and credit and yields in the local market and international market. But I wanted you to give me your perspective of fixed income from a fund management perspective. How was 2020 for you as a portfolio manager that actually manages fixed income? How challenging was it? And just tell us how the funds would have performed over that period.
In 2020, it was very challenging from a fund manager's perspective. In the fixed income space, you found that with the onset of the pandemic, pretty much all fixed income assets declined in March 2020. But with the stimulus, provided by most central governments around the world, especially in the United States, you found that the fixed income market rebounded through 2020 as you found that the Federal Reserve started to put in more asset purchases. You found that asset prices started to go up. So what that presented a challenge to fixed income investors in that the higher asset prices meant that you had to do more work to find value.
And just to contextualize, you're saying, so higher asset prices equals lower yields.
Right.
So you're making a relatively lower yield on those investments.
That's correct. So as you pointed out, as asset prices go up, they lower the yield. So fund managers are trying to get a higher yield, so they're looking for fixed income assets that are relatively depressed in prices. So given the fact that a lot of issuers would have had challenges in their revenue, you didn't find that reflecting in the fixed income issues that they had put forward, because there was just simply so much money in the space that caused asset prices to go up in general. Okay,
understood. And my understanding is that your FX bond fund finished the year positive.
Yes, so in spite of the challenges, and spending much of the year in negative territory, we were able to, select enough assets, do enough trades to get the fund into positive territory. So we're starting 2021 anew, and the guys spoke about several issues that they're looking at, and we are looking at as well, and we're going to be positioning into those assets to position that FX bond fund to be in the top 3 in the island.
So, and talking about funds, let's kind of segue into real estate. How did your real estate fund perform over 2020?
The real estate fund performed very well. It ended the year number 1 in its class. In fact, looking at the return, which was like 13.5%, I don't think there are any other funds in any of the other asset classes that did as well at 13.5%. So, without double checking the figures, I think that fund was the number 1 performing fund in 2020. So it sort of speaks to Barita's the choice that is available at Barita. So whereas the Capital Growth Fund, which was the number 1 performing fund in the past 2 or 3 years, with the onset of the pandemic, you could have positioned into an alternative investment fund structure, which is the real estate portfolio, and get
13%
and get 13.5%.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about real estate prices, whether it be in and around Kingston or other areas outside of Kingston. How has COVID affected real estate prices within the corporate area, if at all? And where do you see where is the next place to be in terms of real estate, if I'm a real estate investor?
I think the word to describe the real estate market in general in Kingston and Jamaica generally is resilient. I didn't find that there were any fall off in any prices generally. The prices per square foot were pretty resilient. What you found is that investors were able to get a little bit more for their money, and that's really as a result of the competitive space, because there are a lot of developers that are operating in Jamaica right now. So for you to compete, you have to provide the investor with a little bit more for their investment dollar. But the pandemic itself didn't affect the real estate environment too much.
I mean, my personal opinion is, as it pertains to real estate, is that Kingston is getting very crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So there are only two ways to go. They either go up or out. So I believe that areas surrounding Kingston, particularly off the new highways on the south coast, and maybe some of the better intersections. So there's one that's coming off Mandela.
The government, through the NHT, is doing a number of developments in Portmore.
Yes.
St. Catherine. So, they're fairly large developments, and they're right in the sweet spot for first-time homeowners. That space has traditionally had robust demand with respect to there are a lot of first-time homeowners, and the NHT, it seems like each year is making credit a little bit more available. And
the process.
And the process is a lot easier as well. So, and not just the NHT, you find that a lot of the traditional real estate funding agents are offering attractive packages to investors in real estate now. I think with the road improvement going on in St. Thomas, I think there you're gonna, and the decreased commute time into Kingston, I think there is going to be the new St. Catherine, so to speak, in terms of real estate.
The residential parish. So thanks again, Bob. And Bob spoke about the sweet spot in real estate, and certainly Bob's real estate fund, which performed at 13.5% for 2020, was a sweet spot amongst all unit trusts. Thanks again, Bob.
All right, you're welcome.